This episode of The Shift is sponsored by LinkedIn. As a B2B marketer, you know how noisy the ad space can be. Well, it's time you had a marketing platform built specifically for you. That's LinkedIn Ads, the platform where you can cut through the noise by precisely reaching the professionals who are more likely to find your ad relevant. Target your ideal audience by job title, industry, company, and more. Stand out with LinkedIn Ads and start converting your B2B audience into high-quality leads today. LinkedIn Ads allow you to build the right relationships, drive results, and reach your customers in a respectful environment. You'll have direct access to and build relationships with decision makers, 1 billion members, 180 million senior level executives, and 10 million C-level executives. You'll be able to drive results with targeting and measurement tools that are built specifically for B2B. In technology, LinkedIn generated 2 to 5 times higher return on ad spend than other social media platforms. And you'll work with a partner who respects the B2B world that you operate in. 79% of B2B content marketers said LinkedIn produces the best results for paid media. Throughout my career on magazines, digital media, and now podcasts, LinkedIn has been invaluable. It's given me direct access to people and ideas that have helped shape the Shift podcast and newsletter and seen it grow into the thriving hub for midlife women that it is today. Stand out with LinkedIn Ads and start converting your B2B audience into high-quality leads today. We'll even give you $100 credit on your next campaign. Go to linkedin.com/theshift to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/theshift. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be. Hello and welcome to The Shift, the podcast that aims to tell the no-holds-barred truth about being a woman post-40. Created and hosted by me, writer and broadcaster Sam Baker. My guest today is the award-winning... what exactly? Writer, content creator, blogger, influencer. Ruth Crilly is all of the above. She started her blog, A Model Recommends, in 2010, before that was even a thing, and became one of the UK's first social media stars. She's got over 500,000 followers across YouTube and Instagram. And unbelievably, she's over 40. Ancient. And before all that, Ruth was a successful model. And it's that experience that forms the basis of her first book, How Not to Be a Supermodel. This isn't a grim story of abuse at the hands of a brutal industry, although it isn't exactly a walk in the park. Instead, Ruth somehow manages to find humour in the endless humiliations and inhumanities models are subject to. Being not tall enough, not cool enough, not thin enough to make it to supermodel stardom.
It was almost a retreat from being out there and putting myself out there and thinking every day, oh my God, no, I've got to stay thin, I've got to look a certain way. You know, the pressure of always having to be turned on in terms of your appearance and looking shit hot.
Ruth joined me to talk about being reduced to your looks when your looks were never your currency. Why there are 2 Ruths in her life, and one of them has to go. Why she wishes she'd known how perfect she was when she was 20. God, don't we all? The trouble with social media, and why she's too lazy, too tight, and too chicken to tweak. But while she's at it, she manages to flog me a beauty gadget to lift my face. I mean, the thing is, you make out that you weren't, because you weren't Cindy Crawford or Giselle, you make out that you weren't a successful model, but you were a successful model. You just weren't Giselle, you know?
Yeah.
And I wonder if, you know, the people who are like, this is really I don't know how to say this without sounding really offensive, but I wonder if you weren't able to be like a successful jobbing model because you weren't comfortable with taking over control, you know, handing over control of yourself. I don't know.
Maybe. I think, do you know what? When I was listening to your podcast with Marion Keyes, and she said something about her looks were never her currency. And I found it really interesting. I think you were talking about losing losing this idea that you're fuckable. Yeah. And she said, I've always felt unfuckable. And then she started talking about how looks had not been her currency. And this, I know it's going to sound really weird, but I just never thought that my looks were the most interesting thing about me. And so I used to find it quite difficult, I think, to be reduced to that, and I'd gone through school and I'd got through Oxbridge interviews and I had a place and I'd done really well and I was headed for academically really good things. And then I just sort of stopped and went, you know what, I'm going to go and be a model. I don't think I had a chip on my shoulder. I don't think I really thought about it, but I think I was always I could never get my head around the fact that I just had to stand there, shut up. And that was the only thing that was being judged. I actually think that I got the majority of my work because I had a combination of personality, a quirky look, probably other things. I'm not sure what. In fact, I could talk my way into people booking me. But, ultimately you are, aren't you? You're being judged. The currency is your thinness, or was then. I mean, maybe it's different now, but it was how thin you were and how interesting your look was. I found it really hard to throw myself 100% into investing, into a career. I used to think, oh God, well, why am I going to go and live in New York when it might not work? I knew then that it was such a gamble. It's amazing that I stuck it out for so long, really.
Yeah. You hadn't started at university when you randomly entered.
I was in year 2. So I decided, basically I did my A-levels, discovered boys.
Oh yeah, always.
Boys with cars. Didn't get the grades that I needed to take my Oxford place, but think that they were going to still let me in because there'd been lots of things going on family-wise and my mum was sort of advocating for me and saying, this is why she didn't get the grades. And I think that I probably was going to still get the place, but I begged them to release me on UCAS so that I could go to Birmingham Uni and be nearer home. I was such a homebird. I was so scared of disturbing my sort of equilibrium and my home life and this bubble that I had created around myself that was very small town mentality, boyfriend, friends, part-time job. I was so frightened to step outside of that bubble that, even then, changed my university. I stayed at home. I didn't go to halls of residence. I spent my student loan on a car and drove in and out every day to Birmingham to do the law degree. Yeah, it's quite amazing, really, that I ended up traveling the world.
Yeah, it's almost like two different people. The person who did that, who went to university near home, didn't stay in halls and basically travelled back in and out every day, versus the person who entered the model competition and chucked in their degree. I mean, I know you commuted up and down the M40 for castings. What a nightmare. But it does seem like almost like two people.
And I think I still have that now. Sometimes I look back and I think about the things that I've missed out on. So, for example, going to Oxford would have been amazing. When I was watching Saltburn, and I was thinking, my God, I could have had such different experiences, not regretting any of it. I could have lived in Paris and I could have lived in New York and I could have thrown myself into those experiences 100% and had a completely different life. But you make decisions, don't you? And my decisions have always been that I like maybe that's what I need. I like a very steady life. I don't even really like staying over in London or, when I go for work and everyone says, oh, it'd be great. Bit of a break from home life and the kids and doing the school run and all that kind of thing. And I really don't like it.
Yeah, no, I get that because I live in Edinburgh and whenever I go to London for work, people always say that to me. And I'm there to do the work and then I come home and that's what I want to do. And I don't get to London and think, oh, I miss it so much.
I like seeing people and I like bouncing off people, especially people who do the same, my peers, and people who do interesting things, inspire me and create that spark. Because I think you need that, don't you? Especially when you work completely alone. But yeah, I can never wait to get back. And I think you're right. There are two people. And I actually think the one person, especially, I dress for this other person as well. It's insane. I buy clothes for this other person. I've got a pair of Christian Louboutin sequined I mean, these boots, I can't even stand up in them. I can't stand still in them. They're so high. And I've got a whole wardrobe full of these crazy things that I buy every now and again for this other person that I think that I am, or maybe I think that I should be. You know, that one that would have lived in New York for 6 years and aced it, or the one that goes to London and is really glitzy and wears sunglasses straight off the train and shoulder robes their coat, you know, ultra glamorous. And I'm not that person. And I don't know, I mean, at what age do you realize that? Or maybe I'll always have this weird split personality of, you know, but the book is very much about that, I think, is not ever quite being the person that I felt that I should be. But that's just not me. I'm not ultra glamorous. I can pull it out of the bag. Don't get me wrong. If I have to, and everything is switched on and, you know, I've got to get my hair and makeup done and wear something fancy, then I can do it. It doesn't come naturally. It's not a voluntary thing. It's something that I have to sort of be forced into.
You know, do you turn that person on to go to London? I mean, do you ever wear that stuff, or does it just sit in the cupboard?
Even when I go to London and I go to an event and it's dressy, I end up in the same comfortable dressy thing that I will crack out time and time again. Yeah, I'm a weird game of two halves. In one way, I don't also like being looked at closely. So I don't like being the one that walks in and being the absolute centre of attention. You know, there are people now, especially with the whole influencer game, and they're there and they've got a cameraman with them and an assistant, and they're wearing stuff that you can just see everything, you know, and they're out in the street or in front of a hotel and everybody's looking, and that just kills me. But then I was a model for a living, and I don't mind dressing up as an insect and making a complete tit of myself.
It is interesting, isn't it? Because like, you were a model for a living, although, I mean, maybe we can come on to this, like, are people really looking at you in a kind of weird way? Not.
I think you're quite protected in a way as a model, because you're normally in a studio or you're on location and you're surrounded by this army of people who are also in it with you. You're never just, you know, they'd never, well, sometimes they did, but they'd never stick you outside and then you'd be in some crazy dress and nobody around you. You were never left bare, you know, not really.
Yeah, I mean, the set, it's like filming anything, isn't it? There's always loads of people around, even if you're the one who's bloody freezing to death in sub-zero temperatures and everybody else is wearing like 3 coats, you know.
And even now, I don't like to feel as though I'm I don't know how to describe it really, putting myself out. I couldn't go into Bath now, for example. I need to go to Marks and Spencer's later. I couldn't go in some real flamboyant, look at me outfit. I wouldn't even go in heels, mainly because my ankles are made of chalk and I can't actually walk in heels. But I wouldn't go in being, you know, look at me and dressing up for the occasion.
So it's interesting because like you chose to be a model and then you chose to be an influencer. And I know that's, if you've got a better way to describe it, please tell me what it is, because I know that most people hate the word influencer. They're like you say, and you don't mind dressing up as an insect and making a tit of yourself on your Instagram. So I'm wondering, I've got a friend who is on the radio, and he is gobby and chatty and outgoing and a laugh. And yet I remember going to his birthday party, and his house was full of his friends, and he finds being around people so hard that he spent most of the time in his bedroom. And that's obviously really extreme. I'm not saying you're like that, but I'm just wondering if that's you put on the character and you're Ruth the model and Ruth the influencer. Sorry, I don't mean to analyse you. And then there's Ruth over there. Ruth, is almost protected by public Ruth. I don't know.
It's interesting you say about the influencer thing, because when I started in 2010, I was doing my MA in creative writing. There was this sort of preamble thing that came out in the post, a pack about how to get started, when lecture days would be, where we had to go on certain days, all that kind of stuff. And it said something like, you need to be writing every day, and, you know, it'd be great if other people can see your writing, because it's really good practice for what we're going to be doing, which is basically sharing within your tutorial groups, analysing everyone else's work. And blogging came about at the same time. I did see a business in it somewhere down the line. And this is way before anyone was thinking about monetizing anything online. But I thought, you know what, I can see something in that, and it could be some kind of way of making money or a career where I'm in control of my own career. And it's something that I want to be doing. But the main reason was to be practicing writing and to be writing where other people could see it. And so when I started, it was the ultimate, almost reclusive kind of thing to be going from modeling to that, because when I started, I wasn't ever thinking, right, I'm going to put myself out there. I'm going to be, this whole thing of Instagram, TikTok, it didn't exist. It was really quite controlled, and you didn't really have to put a lot of yourself out there. It was just words. It was almost a retreat from being out there and putting myself out there and thinking every day, oh my God, no, I've got to stay thin. I've got to look a certain way. The pressure of always having to be turned on in terms of your appearance and looking shit hot. So no, that starting blogging was a dream, because I thought, oh my God, and I loved writing. While I was modelling, I'd done a literature degree with the OU. I'd done 2 postgrad writing courses. I'd done a postgrad journalism course, and then I did my MA, and I was always writing. That's all I did when I was in airports, hotel rooms, just scribbling away. And so the whole blogging thing was a dream come true. But it spiraled. And that's how I ended up doing social media for, 12 years. It's taken 12 years to go full circle and get a book out, which is what the aim was in the first place, So it is weird that I've now ended up again doing something where it stresses me out, because I've always got to think about how I look and how I come across. The irony is not beyond me.
Does that make you want to stop?
I don't think it's massively healthy. I don't think a lot of people are happy. It's created amazing opportunities for people in creative jobs, I think is, from my point of view, the best thing. I love following people who perhaps were journalists that were trapped in a column before, and who now you get to see the full person and they're writing sort of unedited and unhindered. There's so much creativity out there, but then there's also this flip side of just absolute bollocks. And unfortunately, that seems to be what algorithms feed me when I go on cat stuff, which I don't mind, and then absolute bullshit from people cashing in on things that I'm not quite sure should be cashed in on. I feel like everything is for sale on social media, and I'm not sure that's healthy. So do I want out of it? No, but I'm always trying to find a way to do it that is true to the content that I want to consume. And, I just try not to sell out, really, if I'm honest. I try to do what I want to do. So I very quickly realised, for example, when I had my babies, social media was still well in its infancy as well. And people didn't really know what they were doing. I had a blog called The Uphill where I wrote about my experience as a new mum. And it was, it was great. But very quickly, I think within about a year, I thought I can't actually handle sharing this part of my life, this is too personal. And I pretty much removed most pictures, most information. Still got my diaries up of when I was pregnant and a new mum, because I think they're really useful. They're in my main website now. But I very quickly thought, oh, this feels dangerous. And that was years ago. That we're going back sort of 6 years, maybe a little bit more. But I wouldn't want out of it. But it's interesting that writing made me so happy. When I took the time off to write my book, I just kept saying to people every day, I've never been this happy in my whole life. In my whole life, this is the best thing I've ever done. Just being able to sit in a room completely 100% fulfilled, even when it was going badly. I couldn't have thought of, if someone had said, how can I improve your day? I couldn't have thought of a single thing that would have improved my day. I'm sure it'll be short-lived, and the next time I go to do it, I'll be like, oh my fucking God, what am I doing? But by contrast, being on social media, I love making the content, but I don't love this feeling of how will it be received? Will anyone actually see it? It's this weird popularity contest of where you don't know the rules and you don't know who you're supposed to be or what you're supposed to be doing. I just find it impossible. And I think it just messes so many people up. But I love making the content. I love my community of people. I love it when I just make content that I know it's just for them and it'll make them laugh or it'll be useful. But I hate consuming social media, the majority of it.
Yeah, it's about, it's the problem is the algorithm, isn't it? And I know that's like, how long's a piece of string? Because the bit you can control, and I feel exactly the same, the bit you can control, the interactions with your community, the making the content, that's great. The bit you can't control, the promoting it, the somebody somewhere changes an algorithm and makes everything different. It's like, again, it comes back to control and not being able to be the architect of your own future output. Can't think what the right word is.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Do you know what as well? I think it makes you compare everything, doesn't it? Because you can see those numbers. If you had a magazine and you had 40,000, a circulation of 40,000, right? And you know where you sit within the magazines. And there might be a magazine that's got a circulation of 200,000. And then you've got your local magazine, I don't know, 5,000, whatever. But everyone's sort of happy in they know what they're doing. They've got their niche and they're happy doing that. And there's you don't really compare, do you, in the same way? But now that you make every single piece of content or every podcast or it's all real that you do, and you're looking at the numbers, you're looking at the likes.
Do you, nosy question, do you make more money now than you did when you were in fashion?
Yeah, I had 2 massive years in modelling where I did a load of massive commercials. But apart from those 2 years, I was looking back through my tax returns and it was, 20 grand, 30 grand, which considering the amount of hours and travelling I was doing, people don't think it's a full-time job, but it is absolutely the most insane full-time job, modelling.
It's because it's one of those jobs where you, especially until you're established, you spend so much time going for jobs you don't get, as people will discover when they read the book. The dread castings. It's like, what was it like as, 40-something mum of 2, Ruth, looking back over that time to write the book?
Do you know what? Because I knew I wanted the book to be funny. I wanted to write the book when it was set, when I was experiencing it, and then just leave it there without any real contemporary comment on it. I tried to really leave it alone. So I didn't, there were a few places that you'll have noticed where I do make a comment, but it's more a broad comment about that era and about how we were programmed, really, and how media was and how we treated women in general. But apart from those few little bits, I don't really directly make any comments on the noughties as an era and on the modelling industry. And so I think because of that, it made it a slightly easier time for me to write it. I didn't really feel upset by very much of it. The one time I did have a massive cry was when I'd actually finished writing it. I'd finished writing the first draft. My publishers said, "Oh, have you got any pictures for the centre plates?" Which we're now not doing. We're doing some Polaroids that are spotted through the book. And I found all of my old pictures. And I found the Polaroids that related to some of the stories in the book. So there's one story where I'm in Tokyo, which you'll remember, which is quite a pivotal moment. When I saw how thin I was in those photos, because I'd even convinced myself when I was writing, because I was writing from diaries, I was writing from anecdotal material that I'd written in real time in notebooks. So it was actually how I felt at the time. And I even convinced myself that I was on the large side to be a model. I must have been a UK 6 to 8 in those Polaroids. Now it would be a UK 6, then it would have been a UK 8, but sizes are
they've got bigger, haven't they?
Yeah.
See, I remember you saying that you were 5'8" and basically 8 stone.
Mm.
And that's, that's thin by anybody's standards, but not model standards.
Not model standards. Not then. I'm really so removed from that. And I also think that maybe, I don't think modelling exists in quite the same way, does it? Because people use celebrities now and they use influencers, and you don't really see so many models that are just models that don't have any other thing going or name.
I think I think because magazines are much fewer, aren't they, and much less powerful as well. But I think it's probably online shopping.
Yeah.
And then there are models of various sizes, but often the main model is still kind of like 5'10" and is wearing a small, And And the number of times I'm so stupid that I buy like a pair of jeans or a pair of trousers off the internet, and I've read the model is 5'10". It's like, yes, and I'm 5'4", and strangely they're not the right length when I get them. It's like, you fucking idiot, honestly.
I know.
Repeatedly
it's crazy, isn't
doing
it?
that. What was the impact for you, do you think, on your body image, your self-image? Because it was, you know, I know this is, I should say this book is really, really funny. And it's not, whilst it is, there are some horror stories. It's not one of those exposés on the grimness of the model industry thing. You know, people routinely said brutal things to you, and that must have affected the way you, well, like you say, you looked at your diary and you thought you were fat and you were size 6.
Well, here's the thing. I've got quite a good natural sort of sensible attitude towards my body. And I don't know whether it's just luck. Maybe that was just something that, I don't know, when I was growing up, that's how our family was. I'm not sure. Or whether I'm just really lucky, because really I should have come out of modelling with some awful type of disordered eating or another. I mean, I can't believe when I look back on it that I don't. But then when I look at a lot of people in my generation who weren't models, they all still do the same thing, sort of portion control, weigh themselves every now and again, don't obsess over their figures, but will go, oh, put on a bit, better cut down over the summer. Nothing really obsessive. I don't know anybody that really obsesses over it, but it's just there in the background as a by the by. And it did make me think, although we had this awful sort of climate when in our formative years of magazines circling people's cellulite and growing up with exercise videos on the morning TV for women who'd had babies and let themselves go, you know, let's get you back into shape. I'm not sure that we're any worse off than the women of the next generations who seem to be quite a lot more obsessed over body image. I think it's a really tricky one, because that's all I see on social media is people talking about body image and people telling people not to obsess over their body image, but they never stop talking about body image. And so I don't know. I wonder whether I'm any more scathed by it than anyone else, really, because I seem to be all right. I mean, some people would be horrified and say, well, no, you are controlling what you eat, for example, and by weighing yourself every now and again, then obviously you've got an obsession. But I really don't. I really barely think about it. It's just a natural thing that I do, that I just sort of go, well, I'll just have one croissant. I won't have 3, or try and make healthy choices. But I really don't spend a lot of time thinking about it. I don't know I find it hard to know what to make of it, really. Because also I find quite a lot of stuff online about size and body image, and I find quite a lot of it disingenuous. And I'm not quite sure people's intentions when they talk about it. Who knows? Something that I don't really delve into that much for that reason, because things just blow up, don't they?
Yeah, totally. You've done a really good job in the book of, it's really funny and entertaining, and you make some really serious points, and it's a great read, but you're very good at only going like personally and emotionally so far, as you didn't intend it to be. It's not like a personal expose. It's not. So I suppose I was wondering, is there a lot there that she's not saying, or actually is this fundamentally how she feels about it? And with how I'm feeling now talking to you is that actually, no, you just seem like not scarred by it, not tarnished by it.
I just don't think I dwell on things a lot. I don't think I am that deep. Not that deep, but I think that I will think about, I'll let something affect me to a certain degree, and then I'm like, fuck this, move on. Which is why I would never, in the whole time I was modelling, if I was hungry, I'd eat. I never stopped eating because I just thought, well, I can't function that way. I smoked a lot.
But I think that's really healthy. It's like having a line that you won't cross, because, you know, anybody who's worked tangentially to the fashion industry, if you've worked in magazines like I did or in modelling, you know that there's a line that a lot of people do cross, particularly in catwalk models. And I know that a lot of them are genetically incredibly tall and incredibly thin, and also young, so they're thinner. But they're so thin. They are so thin. And it's like working in magazines, there was always, you kind of in your head knew that there were categories, you know, of the catwalk model who was actually this, and this sounds terrible, but because models were, and I think one of the things that comes across in the book, models were they were treated as products, not people. And I think that maybe you were too much of a person to be a successful product, which is kind of what I was trying to say earlier.
Yeah.
That, you know, there's the catwalk model who's like sometimes like horrifyingly thin.
Well, and I remember magazines couldn't use girls that thin.
No, I mean, we definitely couldn't.
There was
and then you had the editorial girl, and I hate myself even saying this, but then you had a different girl, awful, who you might use for underwear or swimwear or beauty. And I don't know, I hate that.
Yeah, you were a beauty girl or a lingerie girl, or you might have been a catalogue girl.
Yeah. Oh.
One of the things, actually, when you just said about never going too personal or too deep, and I said, I don't think I am that deep.
You just were self-deprecating and dismissed it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't think I dwell on things. For example, you know, we drank a lot. And by today's standards, you would say that you had a problem, you know, because it was every night. Everyone was always out, but everyone in fashion was out every night. I mean, everybody was out nearly every night, weren't they? And
totally, yeah.
Most people I knew in the fashion industry, regardless of what role they were playing in the fashion industry, they were drinking to absolute excess numerous times a week, which by today's standards would be horrifying. But again, I don't dwell on that because it's in the past and I don't have a problem. And I think that's why I don't dwell. I mean, I hardly drink now, but I can drink if I want to. I don't think to myself, oh my God, I had a problem then. I don't really think about it. I think, well, that was then. Everybody did it.
Yeah, everybody really
did.
And
I'm not that now. And so I think maybe it's a coping mechanism. Maybe I don't go too deep because I just think, well, I just can't go there. The only real time that I properly felt sad about it was looking at those Polaroids and realizing how utterly thin I was. And then the other time was when I wrote the preface to the book, and I had a sudden realization, because I'd written the book and then I was writing an intro to it. I suddenly realized how perfect I was. I was 20 years old and I was just this perfect little human. Clever, positive, funny, beautiful. You know, that wasn't even on my top priority list. The other things are more important to me now and were more important then. And I think I finished the preface and I was 100% perfect. And I felt really sad at that because I thought most of the time I had a rip-roaring time. But just how time passes and how, I don't know, just time flies, doesn't it? And you realise that you're all of these different people in this lifetime, and it's so long ago and I'm still the same person.
I remember the first time somebody wrote about me that she had a 20-year career in there, and I was like, oh my God. And now it's like so much more than that. But how do you feel now you're 42?
43.
43.
Nearly 44. Thank you for taking a year off.
Who is Ruth? How is Ruth?
When we talked about these two different people, this glamorous person that I buy clothes for, you know, should have lived in New York for a few years and should probably travel a lot more than she does and, you know, make more of an effort appearance-wise. I think that person is slowly becoming quieter. I don't need her. And maybe that's because I'm doing something that I want to do and I know where I'm going in life and I'm not scared to be going in that direction, which is just that I want to write more. And that makes me really happy. The idea that if I could do that, oh my God, I mean, I would just be the happiest person. And because I have that on the horizon as something to work towards, I've worked that out. I'm a lot more comfortable with things. But I think I'm comfortable until I go on social media and start the whole comparison game. And this is my problem with social media. I've been drafting a piece recently about how this is my face and I don't think I ever want to do anything to it. I don't think I ever want to tweak it. But when I talk to peers and when I go online, I think, well, maybe I'm the one that's being stupid and naive, because it's so easy to get things done, so easy to go and get fillers or Botox or whatever else it is that's the new thing that people are doing. You know, there's no stigma attached to it anymore. You can just go and you can look better. I honestly look at my face and I think, I don't want to look different and I don't feel the need to look better. I love my face. I'm perfectly happy with my face. So with everything, I think there's this whole battle, because then I go online and I think, oh, maybe I should get something tweaked on my face, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a really weird one. So I've been sitting here looking at you for the last nearly hour. I think, and honestly, at one point I did think that you were going to be like the most spectacularly attractive older woman. I think because you've got like a great bone structure and you look great without it. You're not wearing any makeup, are you?
No.
You look completely great without makeup. Like a lab rat. And move into the camera again and wrinkle your forehead. And yeah, so because I thought you must have had Botox, because your skin is so good and smooth. So what do you use? Because I can't possibly have you on here without asking for a recommendation.
So I don't put my face in the sun. Do you know what? When I say this online as well, I get about 6 people going, oh, you know, it's so dishonest that you don't just declare what you've had done. And honestly, I can't cope with the pain of my Invisalign when I change the trays over. And I will avoid any kind of medical procedure or going into any hospital or doctors as much as I possibly can. So the idea of me going to have needles put in my face is quite frankly ludicrous. And I never quite know how to get that across so strongly, as strongly as I feel, without people going, she doth protest too much. So yeah, I keep my face out of the sun. This all just sounds like one massive lie, doesn't it? You know, when celebrities say, oh, I just drink juice, you know, and you're like, oh, pull the other one. I use retinoids. So I use those every other night. I use those for the past however many years, 5 years, or must be more than that now. The Medicate ones I think are brilliant. I use the And Begin. Do you know And Begin, which is Skin in Me, but for the, you know, women in their 40s onwards. So it's more specifically designed for older skin, which I think is amazing. There's a Kate Somerville one that I use. I mean, I try and swap things around a bit every now and again because I do write about beauty. So I feel like if I just use the same stuff over and over and over again. And I've got quite into my gadgets, which I was really cynical about. So the zip thing, you know, that electrocutes your face, the microcurrent, it's called the Zip. And it's a device. It's got, here, I'll show you. So you turn it on and that is a microcurrent that goes between the two metal things. And you press it up your face like this, look, and then it lifts it. Sort of wish I could put the gel on to show you real time how this works. Because honestly, if you do half your face is like this.
Because I have to say, I've never had anything done, but I have got to a point where I've decided I've got gels and I hate them. And you know, when you suddenly start to transfix on something, and now I'm thinking, oh, that looks good. That looks like that would sort that out.
Well, then I see people do it and it looks so easy when they do it. They go, come with me to get my, I don't know, half of my face blasted off. And you think, oh, and they never look like they're in that much pain.
No,
you know?
I think I'm just too cowardly.
Right, so it's threefold for me. I'm too cowardly. I'm too tight when it comes to regular payments of things.
Yeah,
so I don't
totally,
like being trapped financially. You know, oh God, my main thing that I strive for in life is just to have no mortgage, because I can't stand the horrible feeling of, you know, that for the foreseeable, that's what I don't know, you feel trapped by it, don't you? A regular payment, by them all, by council tax, by everything. It's knowing that goes out every month. There's a lack of freedom to life, isn't there? Knowing that I know that's just life, but you've always got to pay for it. And I sort of think, why would I add to that pile with something I don't need to add?
Yeah.
Financially, because it must be thousands a year, thousands and thousands a year.
I mean, I don't know how regular. I just don't even know how regularly you're meant to have Botox if you have it.
I think people do it every few months.
So you've got that, and you've got hair colour.
So I like going in to get my hair colour because I'm really good friends with them and we chat and we laugh and whatever. So it's fine. But I still find it to be an imposition. I still have to schedule that in. And it's always a time when I've got loads of work on and I just sit there thinking, God, I need to be getting on with stuff. So to add to that, and I get my nails done. So I get hard gels done, which takes about an hour. And that's every 4 weeks. So that's every 4 weeks. Hair's every 8 weeks. I don't have the capacity for any more things, which is why I like my gadgets, because I do those at home, just while I'm sat here, editing video or whatever, whatever I'm doing at my desk. Disclaimer, I do work with Current Body, just before people, say, but honestly, when a brand deal comes along and you think, oh my God, this is just brilliant. It's a match made in heaven, because they sent me the devices first and I was like, oh, this is a load of bollocks. This is never going to work. And I felt I didn't try them for ages because I almost felt quite angry about it. I thought, these are really expensive and it's trying to get people to buy stuff they don't need. But brilliant. I love that. And I love the mask.
Oh, yeah. The one that makes you look like Silence of the Lambs.
And I was really skeptical about that one for ages because I didn't think that it was doing anything. But then, I look at my skin looks so even and I've not changed anything else in my routine. So for a beauty person, I'm actually far too cynical to be doing it as a job, because maybe that's a good thing.
Yeah, it totally is.
I sometimes think I shouldn't be doing this because I don't believe anything anyone says, but it's quite good because then I'm just really pleasantly surprised when it works.
There was a bit in the book that really, really made me laugh about the classics board. And about the ancient old crones on the classics board. So I want you to tell me a little bit about that, because it made me laugh so much. And I think the listeners will either really laugh or be really horrified.
When I was modelling, there were 3 different boards. There was the New Faces board. There was main board, which is just the bulk of the girls. New Faces were ones that had just been scouted, and you were building up your portfolio. And then they had this board called Classics board, which they still have. I don't know whether it's called that anymore.
It's such an awful name, isn't it? It's like
Classics.
Yeah.
To me, these women, it was just inconceivable that anybody would be that old anyway, let alone that old and modelling. But it's funny, my friend T is going to absolutely kill me because she is on that very board at that agency. And she's one of my really good friends.
And how old is she? Like late 30s or something, early 40s?
No, I think she's 44 today as we're recording this, maybe 45, and looks incredible. Doesn't look 20. It's so funny. It's just so funny to think that, they just seem so old. I just couldn't believe that there was any kind of space for them in fashion, because I was 20.
But there probably wasn't in fashion much, was there?
No, I don't think they were doing a lot. It was a very small board.
Do you think it's better now?
It's not that much better. I still see adverts and things and think, oh my God, you're trying to get one demographic here and you're using a 17... There was a very, very big beauty brand the other month, possibly the biggest beauty brand. And they have put up on their grid a reel made by an influencer who'd obviously put a filter on that. I'm very surprised that they would let them do that, because I've worked for them and you absolutely cannot use filters. So maybe she wasn't filtered. She looked 11 or 12. And I thought, wow, this is an anti-wrinkle product. What are you doing? What are you thinking? Just seems so archaic now, doesn't it? It seems archaic to me to use somebody that young for a product. It just seems silly.
Yeah, now it seems misguided, whereas it used to be the norm. I just slightly worry that it felt to me like last year, everybody was kind of, I don't know how to put it, doing the right thing. There were more older models. There were, older women winning awards. They just seemed like there were a lot of much older women everywhere. And now this year it feels like, and that was all the advertisers as well were really into,
And different body shapes and different body sizes as well.
This year it's tumbleweed. Yeah, it's gone right back.
I was talking to someone about this the other day and I thought, is it because ultimately advertising has always been something aspirational. We're sold a dream, you know, so when we look at something, maybe the advertising that is the most effective is the unattainable.
Yeah, what to be 30 years younger.
Maybe they get their stats back. I don't know this. It just doesn't sell. And then I'm making this up, but I was thinking about it the other day. You know, what if they do all these things and then their sales plummet to a tenth of what they were? And then they think, no, we've got to go back to selling the dream, the unattainable dream.
It'd be interesting to know that, wouldn't it?
I would love to know. They'd never tell us, but I would love to know whether that's the case.
No, they're never going to admit that to that, are they? On that note, I better ask you the questions we always ask.
Oh, go on then.
What's your emotional age?
I'd go in for, I reckon I've come through the terrible teens. I reckon I've got the emotional age. I reckon I'm stuck at about 24, maybe.
Why is that? Why 24?
It's increasing rapidly. Last year, I reckon I'd be at maybe 20. I think just as I'm becoming more comfortable with not trying to be perfect, not always trying to do things the very best, you know, just becoming more comfortable with the reality of life, and not being able to do everything and not being able to juggle everything. Maybe that's a much more mature emotional age than 24, actually. But I don't feel any different to how I felt then. I still have the same insecurities and the same sense of humour, I think. Give
us a book recommendation.
Oh, well, apart from my own?
Yes, apart from your own, you cheeky bugger.
Oh, okay. So Claire Keegan, amazing Irish writer. Just, you know, when it's just pure poetry, but it's not boring. It's not, I don't really like poetry. So you read it and every sentence you think that is so perfectly formed, also so sparse sometimes. It's not like it's wordy. She doesn't use loads of really overblown words. It's not as though she's trying to be clever. Every sentence is just a piece of art.
Where would you suggest someone starts?
I would start with, oh God, it's so dark though. I would start with Antarctica because I feel like she develops. I didn't realise that was one of her first.
Yeah, because it seemed to come out later, didn't it? Yeah.
But she's sort of not softened, but I find they come with a bit of a warning. There's nothing particularly graphic. They just make you really take stock. I think she's fantastic. And I think I love a tiny little paperback of short stories that I can chuck into my handbag because I'm trying not to mindlessly scroll and get back to that. You know, when we used to commute on the tube, not
and read
us together. Yeah, I mean, that would have been a laugh, but we didn't. And you would read a book. Everyone would be reading books or the paper because there were no phones. I mean, you had a phone to phone home on or text, but we weren't on them because there was nothing to do on the phone. So everyone had a book, and I really miss that. So I've started to put little short story collections that you just dip in and out of, waiting at the dentist. Don't pick up the phone, read a little story. That's what I'm trying to do at the moment.
That's a really good point, because I'm really I think I just automatically pick up my phone and open it without even thinking.
Oh, same. I really think it's not good for us though. I know that I make my living from being on social media, but I am not sure I'm not sure it's good for us. There you go. Shoot myself in the foot.
Yeah, exactly. I know I sound like someone's granny, but I do miss the early days of Instagram, when you used to go on and you would literally just be catching up with what the people you followed had done.
Chronological order. Bring it back.
And you just went back to last time you were on and you could go, oh, she's done that. She's done that.
Yeah, me too.
And that was it.
It was so much more honest because now it's controlled by something, isn't it? You're not actually... I like being in control of what I see.
What advice would you give younger women on that note?
My advice would be to seriously restrict social media consumption, I think. I'll be agentless next week. You know that, don't you? Yeah. They'll just say, Ruth, I don't think you're quite right for social media. No, I think the thing is, we're not programmed to take things with a pinch of salt and not compare. So everyone says, oh, you know, it's really important, guys, that you don't compare yourself to what you see online. this is the real me. It's really important that you see everything behind and not just the high points. But the problem is, that's bullshit, because we're always going to look. We're not made in a way that can filter that out. Brains can't do that. Restrict it, curate it, and be really ruthless about what makes you feel good. Because you don't have to, it's a bloody thing in the palm of your hand. It's not life, is it? You can put that in a cupboard, or you could smash it with a hammer. You could buy a Nokia to keep in touch with your family, and you would never need to look on this again, effectively, to survive, would you?
No, that's true, although it does make me feel a bit uncomfortable.
It makes me feel uncomfortable. I mean, we'd all be out of a job, wouldn't we? But totally. I mean, that's the extreme, isn't it? But you can, what I mean is you don't have to be a part of this world 24 hours a day, or just before you go to sleep, or the minute that you wake up.
Who's your old bird role model?
Do you know who I love? Gillian Anderson.
She's cool, isn't she?
I think she's so cool. I only recently thought to myself, I wonder if she's on Instagram, and then started following her Instagram.
So much. Yeah.
Because normally I just admire from afar, you know, an interview here, an interview there, or something that she's appeared in. And I just think, bloody hell, you're amazing. And I've never seen a single thing that she's done where I've thought, that needs a mute, you know. So, you know, you're onto a good thing, aren't you? If you love everything they do.
What's your superpower?
What superpower would I like, or what is my existing superpower?
Whichever. People go have both, either.
What I would like is a really weird one. I'm really into how things would have looked at different points in time. For example, my village. I'd love to be able to just put on some goggles and go 200 years or 350 years and just be there, even if I could just see it, how it was then.
So not time traveling, but more like Not
necessarily time traveling, because I would be so worried about getting stuck that I don't think I could do it. You
wouldn't enjoy it.
I wouldn't enjoy it, because I'd constantly be thinking, is the portal going to close? Is the battery going to run out on whatever it is that I've transported myself in? I couldn't relax. It's my idea of a nightmare is, you know, when you watch those films and I'm just like, oh my God, get back in the car or the machine.
Last one, how many fucks do you give?
About 2 a month if he's lucky. Varies. How many fucks do we give? Oh God, I still do quite a lot, I think. Probably more than I should. But I'm always very worried about how other people respond to what I say. I'm a worrier. I don't like to upset people. I will say something on a night out and I will think about it for a week, about whether I've said the right thing. Did they take it the right way? Would they tell me if I'd said something bad? So I do. I know I'd like to be the one that goes, I don't give a fuck about anything. But I do, unfortunately. I'm right the other end of the scale. Lots of fucks given. But also, sometimes I find the people that say they don't care about anything are the most insecure and really do care but haven't quite cottoned on. There's no issue with that. That's fine. You can be two different people, can't you? You can have it's the same as having a public persona like your mate on the radio and your private one that's completely different.
Yeah, it's whatever gets you through, isn't it? I think it's like whether you need to put on someone to leave the house almost, or...
I've never been able to do that very well, though. I think that almost what you see online is what you get with me, I think.
But there's still the person in the cupboard with the Louboutins.
The person in the cupboard with those bloody shoes, honestly, she just needs to take a hike. I don't think she's long for this world, to be quite honest. I'm going to sell those shoes. I think when I sell the shoes, that might be the end of her. And then it's regatta outerwear for the rest of my life. Chino shorts.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoy The Shift and would like to show your appreciation, why not buy me a coffee? Go to www.buymeacoffee.com/The Shift with Sam Baker. You can hear a new episode of The Shift every Tuesday, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you like what you hear, please do rate, review, follow, tell your friends, because it really does help other people find us. And if you'd like to know more about my own experience of shifting, my book, The Shift, How I Lost and Found Myself After 40, and you can too, is out now in paperback.